Welcome to The Explainer. You know, at first glance, Hinduism and Buddhism, they seem like two totally separate worlds. But what if they're actually part of the same incredible story? Today, we're going to dig into a connection between them that's so deep, it might just change the way you think about them entirely.
Let's start with these words from a sacred Hindu text, the Devi Gita. It talks about this all-encompassing divine presence, right? Well, that idea, as we're about to see, actually flows across spiritual boundaries in some really surprising ways. It perfectly sets the stage for where we're headed.
I mean, most of us are taught to see these as two very distinct religions. But you know what? The lines are way blurrier than you'd think. And we're not just talking about them being from the same part of the world. We're talking about a shared spiritual DNA.
And these connections, they aren't just some abstract philosophical thing. We're talking about core practices, ritual worship, chanting mantras, specific yogic techniques. These are fundamental to both. It's actually so intertwined that Tantric Buddhism, especially the kind you see in Tibet, often has way more in common with Hinduism than it does with, say, the Buddhism of Thailand or Sri Lanka. It's wild.
So to really see how this shared DNA plays out, let's just zoom in on a single, incredibly powerful deity who's loved in both traditions. This is where the theory gets real fast. And that brings us to the goddess Tara. So, who is she? Is she a Buddhist bodhisattva, a being of pure, enlightened compassion? Or is she a powerful Hindu goddess? Well, this question really gets to the heart of it all. And the answer is, amazingly, yes to both.
The parallels here are just mind-blowing. In Buddhism, Tara is a savior, this divine mother figure who sticks around to help everyone else reach enlightenment. And in Hinduism, she has the exact same job, a fierce, saving form of the supreme goddess Durga. So it's not just a similar name, it's the same core function, divine rescue.
Even her name tells a story. It comes from the Sanskrit root tri, which means to deliver or to cross over. In both traditions, she's seen as this divine ship that carries souls across the stormy ocean of worldly suffering, or samsara, to the shores of liberation. And that image? It's ancient, way older than Buddhism itself.
And get this, the connection isn't just in the stories. You can literally see it in the art. The rules for how to depict Tara, her seated pose, the lotuses she holds, those specific hand gestures, they all follow the same sacred blueprint. If you put them side by side, visually, they are the same deity.
Okay, but Tara isn't just a one-off example. This pattern of sharing gods just keeps going, and it gets even more intense with these powerful figures called yoginis.
All right, so this is a really fierce kind of starting image, and it's supposed to be. This isn't literal, of course. It's a powerful symbol of a goddess with this profound, self-sacrificing spiritual power, one who basically nourishes the entire world with her own life force.
This kind of goddess is called a yogini. Now, the term means a female master of yoga, but it also describes this whole class of fierce goddesses who act as spiritual guides, and they pop up in both Buddhist and Hindu Tantra traditions as these pure embodiments of enlightened energy.
So this headless goddess, she's known as Vajrayogini in Buddhism and Chinnamasta in Hinduism, but their depiction is exactly the same. This isn't just a similar idea, it's a direct copy-paste of an entire divine form. It's this shared vision of power that just completely transcends any kind of religious label.
Okay, so shared gods and goddesses, that's one thing. But what about the core philosophies? Surely this is where the two paths have to go their separate ways, right?
And yeah, this is the classic argument. This is the point where a lot of people draw a hard line in the sand. Hinduism is all about its belief in an eternal self, the Atman. And Buddhism is famous for its doctrine of no self, or anatman. On the surface, they seem impossible to square.
I mean, it really feels like a total contradiction. The Hindu path is about finding your true eternal self. The Buddhist path is about realizing that your everyday self is just an illusion. You'd think they were heading in completely opposite directions.
But what if this whole conflict is just a misunderstanding of what the words mean? What if we're all just getting hung up on the surface? Because when you really dig into what both traditions actually mean by self, that big contradiction, it just kind of starts to melt away.
For instance, listen to this from the Bhagavad Gita, a huge Hindu text. It says, "The path to peace requires having no sense of ego." This goal of getting beyond the limited, personal ego, that little voice in your head that says I, me, mine, that is precisely the same goal as in Buddhism. So here's how it clicks together,
Both traditions are going after the same target, that small personal ego. The big self that Hinduism is looking for isn't that ego. It's Atman, this universal consciousness that's one with all of reality, or Brahman. And the no self that Buddhism teaches, that's about rejecting that very same limited ego. So in the end, both paths are trying to lead you away from the small self and toward a supreme, boundless reality. The equation Atman equals Brahman is basically the same thing as mind equals Buddha. So, this brings us all the way back to our big question. After looking at the shared gods, the shared practices, and even the shared ultimate goal, what is the real relationship between these two ancient paths?
And I think the conclusion here is pretty profound. It's that Hinduism and Buddhism aren't really different religions so much as they are different formulations of the same deep, underlying yogic tradition of India. They might use different language, maybe take slightly different approaches, but their essence, that pursuit of freedom from the limited self, is one and the same.
And that just leaves us with the final thought, doesn't it? If the destination is the same, how much do the names we give the paths really matter? It's a challenge, really, to look past all the surface-level differences and see the incredible, unifying truths that lie at the very heart of it all.